rumor here at high school? Raise your hands. Anyone? Okay. Quiet down, please. The most horrible rumor I've ever heard in this school district happened at a time when I was a student here many years ago. That rumor was so horrible, we could not comprehend it. It was unbelievable. So, in response to the rumors, students made up stories that seemed to make more sense about the student. Our guest speaker today was the victim of that horrible rumor, and she's going to be setting the truth straight.
We are all members of the class of 1989 from Upper Dauphin High School. We would like to share some memories that we all have from Linda.
I remember very well my senior year, am I allowed to say this? 1989. I look that old, I know they don't, but I do. But having said that, I can remember one day, and I'm being serious here, this is real serious. I was coming down the hall and I had no real problems in my life, but I was having a bad day. And I remember our guest speaker was standing at her locker. My locker was close to hers. And as I was coming down the hall, she turned and looked at me and said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Okay." And I was having just one of those days, nothing major going on, but I thought it was bad. And I thought about the life that she was living at the time, and I thought, who am I to say I'm having a bad day? But yet, she looked at me, she said, "I want you to have a good day," and she gave me a Christmas card. And now here we are, 23 years later, and I have never forgotten that. And I guess the moral of my story is, never underestimate how much of an impact you can have just by being kind to somebody, even if it is just for a second or two. And I really appreciate that, and here we are 23 years later, and I've never forgotten that moment.
I was friends with Linda, good friends in middle school. I went to her house pretty often. She had a lot of animals, we played outside a lot. We weren't really allowed inside the house, but the few times that I did go in the house, I did notice her father. I thought it was her grandfather. He was kind of shy, didn't really talk to me, didn't really say much, wasn't ignorant, wasn't mean, but just kind of wasn't there. Linda lived with her father and her brother. I remember Linda being very kind. She was a kind student. She was a happy student. She would do anything for you, very intelligent, at least in middle school. But I remember in high school, we kind of grew apart socially. I kind of saw Linda withdraw from her social connections, and I withdrew from her as well because I was a very social student in high school. But in high school, I saw Linda become kind of quiet and withdrawn, and that was my memory of Linda.
My first memory of Linda was when she moved to Upper Dauphin. We were in 4th grade. We had Miss Houts as a teacher, now Mrs. Haley. And she was really a nice girl, really fun, really laid back, easygoing. And it always seemed strange to me that she had Dad and not a mom. And, you know, why would you just live with your dad at the time? You know, why wouldn't you live with your mom? I just never quite understood that. I never understood why my mom would never let me go play at her house. She was allowed to come to my house, but I was allowed to go there. As Mrs. Esther implied, you know, the worst rumor she ever heard in high school, she heard about one of our classmates. Well, the worst rumor I ever heard about one of our students. It was the worst rumor I ever heard in my whole life. And it was so hard for me to comprehend that this could even be happening to someone that I knew. Because, you know, like Mr. Hunter said, we all had our problems, but we just couldn't imagine that someone had a problem that was this in-depth and could still keep going on and still be coming to school and being the happy, lucky person she seemed to be.
I remember Linda as just a wonderful friend. She was always kind, like they had said, and we were really great friends. And even so many years later, we are still really good friends.
Linda, we were unable to support you 25 years ago, but we want you to know we are here for you now. And we are proud to support you as an inspiration to young people, that no matter what difficulties they endure, they can make their lives better.
At this time, I would like to invite any of the teachers who were here during that time period to come up on stage. And if you want to share any stories that you remember about our speaker, Linda, or about those rumors.
Mr. Tom.
Round of applause for Mr. Tom.
Maybe Mr. Henning, I'm afraid to say what year he came from. I'm not saying what year I came from. It's in the 1800s. Now, I've taught here for 42 years, in a lot of classes. I remember this little girl who always smiled a lot in middle school. It's kind of upsetting. But I hear, for 40-some years, I've heard kids complain and groan and moan about life. And she's not the worst story I know. I know a couple that are much worse. But I always saw this little smile. That's all to me, she was this marvelous little girl that smiled all the time and was so friendly. And I thought, if you can smile at life, then all of us should be able to. And that's my memory of her.
I had Linda, it's probably my third year of teaching, so I was still a relatively young teacher. And she was a short little petite girl who was, as everybody up here mentioned, always happy, always smiling, always willing to do for others. And I had no idea, because she was in my class and she was always friendly and happy and helpful and an excellent student, that she was going through anything like this. In 1989, we didn't have the internet, which tells you how old we are. There was no internet, there was no cell phone.
Think for yourself.
So it wasn't easy to communicate with the faculty like we can get now, an instant message from the principal or the secretary. And a lot of things we have today, like the student assistance team, those things weren't around, they weren't available back then. So a lot of things that may have been happening to students, we as a faculty really didn't know about. And I didn't even hear about these rumors about Linda until, after she had been out of my class. And even then I thought, well, that can't really be true. Things like that just don't happen in this valley. Someone has to have known about it. Someone would have had to done something about it. But no one had done anything about it. It had gone her situation had gone on for years and years and years. And it wasn't until later I found out what some of the truth was. And even then, I'm sure that I still don't know all the truth. But I just want you to know that even as bad as things may go for you, that if you persevere, you keep trying, you can work through some of the hardships in life. Here's a very successful young woman who really made something out of a horrible tragedy, a horrible situation. So if she can do it, and you're going through some terrible times, it may be really difficult for you to handle right now, but as time goes by and you have a social support group, look at the support group now that Linda has, you can really do something with your life.
Okay, our speaker today is District Justice Linda Williams. O'Neills and Mr. Henningers and some other guests with us today. Last week we shared with you some memories that we had of Linda as our classmate. Today, in thinking about this introduction and how I wanted to start it off, I have one word to describe our speaker, and that is resilient.
When something goes wrong in your life, do you tend to bounce back or fall apart? Resilience is the ability to harness inner strength to rebound from life's challenges, such as a job loss, an illness, a disaster, death of a loved one, or in Linda's case, abuse. If you don't have resilience, you might dwell on problems, feel victimized, become overwhelmed, or turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance abuse.
Resilience won't make your problems go away, but having this quality can give you the ability to move on, find enjoyment in life, and better handle stress. Resilience is the ability to roll with the punches when stress, adversity, or trauma strikes. You will still experience anger, grief, and pain, but you will be able to move on in a functioning way.
A resilient person doesn't withdraw, tough it out, or get through things alone. They reach out to others for support. Now I present you with the Resilient District Justice Linda Williams.
I'm told I have to be up here so you can see me. I'm short, so the chances of you seeing me are really slim anyway. What I want to do is I want to tell you a little bit about me. And I tend to like to get questions because it helps guide me what you want to know and what you want to hear from me. So let me start off with, I was born in Pennsylvania. My parents divorced when I was 4. I've lived in homeless shelters and battered women's shelters with my mother. My mother packed us up, my brother and I, up in the middle of the night one night and moved us to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. While we were living in South Dakota, we stayed here, there, and everywhere, and that was the first time that one of my mother's friends came into my room and started to fondle me. I remember what happened. I also remember a time when I was laying on a couch with my mom sitting in the living room and this same person fondling me in front of my mom under a blanket. Eventually, after that happened, we moved again. And she left us with this family that had 3 boys. And the 2 oldest boys sought some pleasure, I guess you could say, in torture or however you want to look at it. But they would make me stand naked in the bed in the middle of the night as punishment for something that I did. I was forced to perform oral sex on the one while the other one watched and told me how disgusting and horrible I was when I wanted to rinse my mouth out. After living there for a while, my father came from Pennsylvania and brought my brother and I back to Elizabethville. We lived here with my my stepmom, my brother, my stepsister, and my half-brother. Eventually, my stepmother left, and that left us with my father. My father began abusing me and fondling me, knowing what I had already been through. And he kind of used that against me. As a matter of fact, he said to me one night that I didn't have to worry about any of those boys taking my virginity because he just did. So that went on for quite a while. Can't say that I was exactly pleasant all the time. I know that some of my classmates remember me as that way. I remember more that I just wanted to die. So badly some days that it was very hard to find a reason to keep going. But I had my brother, and if I died, what would happen to him? So I kind of looked at it that way. And I know people came to me and wanted to help me, but at that time, I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and in my mind, it was stay here and have just my dad abusing me, or go back and live with my mom and have God knows how many abusing me. So in my logic and in my processing, one was better than many. It came to, I guess you could say a head, but that's not really the word I want to use. But on my 16th birthday, I had been out of school for a while because my dad had gotten me pregnant. Now, he had tried to take me to New York to have an abortion, but I was too far along. So I pretty much stay away from trains because that's how we traveled up there. On my 16th birthday, I woke up in excruciating pain. Getting my driver's license was the farthest thing from my mind. I thought I was going to die because I was in so much pain. Turns out that I was rushed to the hospital that morning on my 16th birthday to have an emergency C-section because the baby was breech and everything else that could basically go wrong was going wrong. I gave the baby up for adoption without ever seeing him because I felt that it was better for him not to know where he came from than to ever think that he came from something as terrible as that, because it's very hard to have any kind of self-worth when you view yourself in that fashion. I came back to school, and not everything was peachy and great and wonderful. I struggled with some things. I had a lot of anger. I recall punching a locker or two in my day. One of the things that did help me, though, was Mr. Ocker, who was the geometry teacher back then, had a corkboard outside his room, like most of the teachers do. And for the longest time, he had a sign on that door, on that corkboard, that said, "Suicide, a permanent solution to a temporary problem." That saying has stuck with me for more than 20 years, because every time I thought about checking out, killing myself, doing myself in, that came into my mind, because this can't last forever. It's going to end at some point. And then one day my dad came to me and he said, "Would you like me to stop doing that to you?" And I thought to myself, I don't really recall asking you to start, but I said, yes, that would be nice. And it stopped. While I was going through this, I was told that women were good for nothing but sex, and some of them aren't even good for that. The worst possible thing in the world you could be is a tease. Fathers have to do this to their daughters so that they can teach them how to be proper wives. It says so in the Bible that you can do this, which, by the way, read the Bible, doesn't say any such thing. And I do use humor, so feel free to giggle if I make you giggle. That's what I do. That's how it ended. I started back to school, finished school, graduated from high school. Got a little lost for a little bit because, wow, everybody looked to school as a prison. I looked at it as an escape, because this was where I escaped, and this is where I was free, and this is where I was safe. At home, I wasn't. So when I graduated, I was kind of lost, spent a little too much time going to too many parties, had access to a lot of things, never got into the drugs, because even though it was all around me, I had something in the back of my head that just said, you got bigger things and this will just mess everything up. So I did drink. I drank a lot. If I started drinking, I did not stop till I was drunk. Stayed lost for a while. I met my oldest daughter's father. I had my oldest daughter, and our relationship got rocky, to say the least, and while I thought I deserved whatever life handed to me, I did not believe my child did. So I took steps to ensure my daughter's safety, and then I went back and I finished school. I went and got my college education. I have an associate's degree in paralegalism. I went on and got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Right after I got my bachelor's degree, some of you may remember him. And Ralph McAllister used to be a trooper up here. He actually got me hired at the Dauphin County Sheriff's Department, where I worked for a little over a year before I got hired by York County Sheriff's Department. And that's where I worked until I got appointed as magisterial district judge in New York City. And that's kind of basically my story. I have a husband. We do not have, the perfect, wonderful la-di-da, because nobody has that. We have our ups and downs, but he's been supportive. He occasionally, when he can, comes to hear me speak. And we work through things together, because that's what you have to do. And I have 4 daughters. Now 2 of them, well, one of them is married, one will be married next week. I'll be a grandmother for the 2nd time in September. I have 2 younger daughters, and then I have my son who's 2. And that's basically my story. I do have bad days. There are some days where getting up is hard. There are some days where I just can't find a reason to get up, but then I get up and I see my children, or my children come over to my room, or I see on TV something that's happened, and I just know that I don't have a choice. I have to get up. I have to go on. I have to do something. And that's why I come here to talk to you, because once upon a time I sat there in those chairs and I listened to people speak up here, and I thought, there's no way you could possibly know what I'm going through. There's no way you have any idea what it's like. Only now I'm standing up here and I'm looking at you, and I know I do know what it's like, because I was there. I lived it. I bought the t-shirt, if you want to say. This is a common thing. When I went to school here, we didn't have, I know they said this last week, we didn't have cell phones or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. We had word of mouth, which I honestly believe even to this day spreads stuff faster than the internet can, because there were some horrible rumors about me. I had people betting that I wouldn't live to see my 18th birthday, and just all kind, you name it, and it was being said, I guess you could say. I've heard stories about most of the teachers here that went to school with me back then, because that's just what happened. It doesn't make it true, it doesn't make it not true. It makes it gossip, and it's very painful when it's about you. I deal with that a lot in my job now, especially with Facebook and stuff. I have students coming in, getting in fights over he said, she said stuff, and one of the things I talk about is to stay away from that kind of behavior, because really, it's really hurtful to the person that's being said about. And it sounds funny and it's a good story at the time. You just want to pass them on and make, you know, be popular or something, but it really is hurtful to the person it's being said about. And when I was going through this, we didn't talk about these things. We didn't have assemblies about abuse, and even domestic abuse or just physical child abuse, let alone sexual abuse. We didn't do that. It wasn't done, because we didn't talk about that, because yeah, that happens somewhere over there. That doesn't happen right here. Well, I'm here to tell you that I sat in those chairs. It happened to me. It does happen here. Chances are good it's happening here to someone now. I lived, if anybody remembers where the Agway building is, used to be called MI across the street from there. I lived in a big greenhouse on the hill. That's where I lived, and that's where it has happened to me. I lived here. I walked from that house into Elizabethville. I've walked to this school more than once. I've been to the playground, the Elizabethville pool. It happens. It happens here. One of the things that I do want to impart to you, and I don't know where we stand on time, and I know you can't see me, but I find that this is much more...
15 minutes.
Okay, I find this is much more helpful when I do this. Can I borrow you? Just stand up here for me. Okay. Can I borrow you? Okay. Can I borrow you? All right. I'll grab stand next to them, please. Can I borrow you? Just go ahead and stand next to them, please. All right. Can I borrow you? Yep, you. And you stand on the other side.
Oh my God, my sister.
You, please. All right. And you in the black sweatshirt right there. Okay. Both of you, come on. Come up there. If I can have the guys go to the other side, please, and the girls stay on one side, the guys on the other. This isn't hard. All right. And if I can borrow you, please. All right. Let me see if my count is right here. I have to grab one more person. And can I borrow you, please? Yes? Yes, please. Unless there's another me behind you, I'd really like to borrow you. Okay. All right. Now, I know everybody can count. We're in high school now, right? Right here, you see 6 nice, strapping young gentlemen that go to school with you, right? Okay. The statistics are 1 in 6 boys of sexual violence before their 18th birthday? 1. That is not counting detention centers, foster children, or anything like that. That is just general public out in the open, 1 in 6 boys. So if you look around and you just do some little bit of calculation, statistics are pretty good. There's somebody sitting in this room. The statistics are for girls, 1 in 4 girls will be a victim of sexual assault before their 18th birthday. Look around this room. There's a chance. I'm not saying my sexual assault, what happened to me. I'm saying sexual assault in general. Whether it's date rape, whether it's unwanted touching, whether it's nasty things being posted on the internet about what you do, anything like that. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. Thank you very much. If you have questions for me, if there's something you want to know, feel free to ask me. I may not be able to get to everybody, but I can certainly answer a couple of questions. Go ahead.
While you were a student here, a lot of us knew the rumors. We talked before you got here last week. A lot of us heard the rumors, didn't know if it was true, didn't know if it wasn't true. I, for one, couldn't imagine that it was true because it was so horrible. But sort of thought it might be. What could have we done differently? What would you suggest to someone else who hears a rumor? What could they do besides not spreading the rumor?
That's a tough one. I do get asked that one a lot, and for my situation, there honestly wasn't a whole lot that anybody could have done because I didn't trust anybody. Granted, I said I felt safe in school, but I didn't trust anybody because of the rumors. So I didn't want to tell anybody anything because I was afraid that they were going to use that against me later on. For somebody who is going through this, they need someone to trust. That is the biggest thing. They need a place to feel safe. They need someone they can talk to that they know with all their heart that you will not tell anybody what you're telling them until they say it's okay. Because we have no control over our lives. The only thing we can control is whether or not we tell this secret. And some of us will take it to the grave. Some of us will speak it out. And some of us will let it destroy us. And that's just simply how it is. There's nothing you can do to force somebody to talk about this. There's nothing you can do to coax it out of somebody. If somebody tells you, you may be concerned for their safety, but the worst thing you could do would be to go tell anyone without their permission, because they will no longer trust you. And that includes, and I know that's hard, especially with teachers. Teachers are taught that they have to tell, but if you take this and you go tell somebody without their permission, you'll lose that person. You have a question? Thanks. And like I said, I didn't trust anybody. There was nobody I trusted. I went to school with state troopers' sons. They heard the rumors, so basically the entire state police barracks heard the rumors about what was going on with me. And it wasn't the big one that we have now. But they all knew. Most of the school heard rumors about what was going on. I didn't trust anybody, and again, I look at it this way. If I told you were going to take me away from my brother, and you were going to send me back to my mom, and that was far worse. I believe you were next. My father passed away some time ago from COPD, and as the oldest child, I took care of my responsibility, made sure he was buried, and that's been it for me. He was buried. So.
He was never arrested.
No, he was never arrested. He was never charged. By the time I was able to start speaking out, the statute of limitations had already passed for the crimes that were done to me, so I couldn't have anything done to him. I believe you were next. Yes. That's now. When this happened to me, I remember it was 20 years ago. Or was it actually more than 20 years ago? Because when it happened to me, the statute of limitations was 5 years.
I want to repeat the question so we can hear.
I'm sorry, but she mentioned that the statute of limitations is 50 years now for these types of things. When it happened to me back in 1987 and 86 and 85, the statute of limitations was 5 years, period. Then it got changed to 5 years after your 18th birthday. And I wasn't quite ready for that. And it didn't change until sometime after, and by then my dad was, it was your fault, so, and he was dying, so it really didn't matter at that point, because now he's meeting his reward. I believe you were next. I'm sorry? I don't have room for hate. It takes way too much of my energy to hate people because I really don't have room for that. I have had people who've, mistreated me over the years. I deal with it now. My gosh, I'm 5'1". I used to work in law enforcement. You name it. My goodness, I've been mistreated. I don't have time for that. It takes so much more energy for me to hate somebody than it is for me to say, okay, that's what you want, fine, go right ahead, and move on with my life. I don't know why my dad asked if he should stop. I have thought about things over the years, and I'm not by any means a Bible thumper or anything like that, but I have looked at things over the years from somebody I went to school with while I was off, right before I had the baby, sending me this little note that just said, hey, where you been? I missed you. I need help with my English homework. To one of the cool kids letting me wear their jersey. To somebody stopping me and just saying, hi, how are you today, Linda? And knowing that always seemed to happen at my lowest moments. I know that there is a God, and I know that we each have choice in where our life goes. So my dad chose that path. My dad chose to do those things. I chose not to repeat it. So I can't answer why he did what he did. All I know is that was his choice, and I can either let it kill me or I can move away from it. And I'm not sure who was next. I didn't know how to try to stop my dad. I didn't know what to do. I had already been through so much that I just kind of thought this was normal life. I thought this was everybody went through this. So I really didn't know how to stop my dad. Trying to talk to him just resulted in me being told that dads are supposed to do this, says so in the Bible, and all this other stuff. So that didn't help me a whole lot. And I wasn't allowed to have friends over because even if the parents did believe the rumors, they heard the rumors, so they didn't want their children coming to my house just in case. And I didn't go to a lot of people's houses because if I went to somebody's house, I might start to trust somebody and open up, in which case life would be over for my dad. So it was kind of this vicious circle of not being able to talk. I'm not sure who was next. I believe one over here. Go ahead.
Did your mom and other siblings know anywhere, or did you have to tell them?
My brothers did not. I have 4 younger brothers. My brothers did not. I am a mother. I can't answer what my mother knows, but I can say that if something is wrong with one of my children, I know something is wrong. I may not know exactly what is wrong, but I know something's wrong. And they can tell me nothing until they're blue in the face, and I know because I'm mom. And I just know. And it kind of freaks them out sometimes, but if you're a mom and you're connected with your kids, you know. You know something. And what are you over here? Again, I go back to, she asked if I ever want to see the son that I put up for adoption. I go back to, if he meets me, he has to come to reality with how he was brought into this world. And I don't believe that anybody should ever have to deal with that as part of their history. He was adopted by a nice family, and that's all I need to know. And barring any serious medical conditions, I think it's best he not know about me or what happened. And I believe you had a question? Pardon? Okay. I didn't hate my dad. Would I have had something done to him? I can't answer that at this point because in order for me to answer that, I have to go back to being angry, and I'm not angry anymore. And justice, especially since I work with this, justice has to be in the moment in order for the people to get it. which is why when a child sticks their hands on a hot stove, you smack their fingers right away so they get it right away. And putting him in jail when he believes it was my fault would have done nothing for him and wouldn't have brought me any peace. I have more peace by coming to school and talking to you guys than anything that the justice system would have done with him. I've been beaten. Y'all don't know it, but those yardsticks that you get now for free, they used to be a lot thicker, and the reason they're not now is because kids like me getting them broke over their backside and their back and their legs and their arms. My dad used to punch me in the arm to see if I could take it because in addition to being a good wife, he had to make sure that I was tough enough to be a tomboy. So I don't think it would have made anything any different or worse or better or anything. Yes, ma'am. South Dakota? I don't know. What I found out after the fact in later years is that my parents were going through a custody thing, and every time my mom got a new parents and to appear in court, she took off. So I don't know. Mr. Mom.
Obviously, you can speak with people about this, but I wonder if your children, as they come of age, I would assume you say something to them on the day taken.
I actually have not told my children. One of my children knows, and the only reason one of my children knows is because she made a comment to somebody that I abused her the way she was abused, or the way I was abused. And so her and I had a very heated and angry conversation one evening about she should never, ever, 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 ever speak about something she knows nothing about. If it will help my children will be told. At this point, my children, I think, and based on what I know about my children and the relationship that I hope we have, that I like to dream we have, I think I could tell if something was wrong, and as near as I can tell, my children are fairly safe. I know where they go to visit, I know where they go to school, I know where they go to the mall, I know where they go pretty much everywhere, and they hate it, but I can sleep at night, so, yes sir.
Have you ever tried to rebuild your relationship with your mom, or you just stay with her?
Have I ever tried to rebuild my relationship with my mom? There was a time where I tried, but there are other issues with my mother that make it next to impossible for me to do that. So I have not rebuilt a relationship with my mother. She gets sick, I'll go see her, you know, that kind of thing. And I have about 5 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. My stepmom left my dad, near as I've been told, because she found somebody else. Because my dad actually got custody of my stepsister, if you can believe that. So, yes. Was I afraid to have a relationship with a guy? Yes, very much. Some of you guys aren't very nice. You're very mean. Anybody else have a pressing question?
How about this? What recommendations would you have for any of our young people who may be experiencing something similar to this?
Watch for the light at the end of the tunnel. I know it's dark. I know it's hard to see. It's there. Trust me, it's there. I sat where you sat. I went through stuff sitting here. The light is there. Some days you can't see it. Some days you don't want to see it, but it's there. Don't give up. Don't give up. Holding up everybody. I have a lot of people coming to me telling me that they're sorry that they didn't do anything. I only hold one person responsible for what happened to me. That was my father. Nobody else did anything wrong. Nobody else hurt me. Nobody else could have done anything to help me without me being able to help myself. So I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. And I don't want anybody feeling sorry that they didn't do anything because you didn't do anything. My dad did it. And there's nothing that you could have done. So I just wanted to say that.
I do have one classmate who wants to say something to Linda. And when we do dismiss you, any of you are welcome to stay behind and come up and speak with us.
Linda, I know you say you don't want to hear that I'm sorry for not coming to you when I heard the rumors. But over the last couple of weeks, I've really been heartbroken over how these rumors, for as horrible as they were, and I was such a good friend to you, I didn't come to you and didn't talk to you about this stuff. When I was questioned by another student, I just ignored him and walked away. And Linda, I am truly sorry that I've never helped you.